everyone, and good evening. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone who is watching is having a good evening and has had a fabulous week. I'm super excited, as per always, to be here on a Tuesday night sharing the screen with all of you. The last time we were here, we were joined by Brian Perez Mendez, and we spoke about the male's perspective on domestic violence. We had an amazing night. He's such a humble young man, and we had a great conversation. So I hope you guys are looking forward to tonight as much as we are to put it on for you. Carmen Gonzalez, first person in here. Hello, as always. Happy Tuesday, Carmen. Thank you for always being here with us. As per always, if you know of someone who is dealing with domestic violence, whether it is a friend, a coworker, someone you love, yourself, please, reminder, always to reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is scrolling across the bottom of the screen at 1-800-799-7233. You can reach out to us at loveshouldnothurt.com or any of our social media platforms. So when we opened up the month, we opened it up very, very amazing with Joel Correa, speaking about why he was so excited about Pride Month. And we want to continue to do so to celebrate and be in unity with all of the LGBTQIA+ community, those that we love, our children, our friends, our neighbors, everyone that we love, because we stand with them. So we are closing out Pride Month with an amazing individual. When I put his name up in his flyer, people were inboxing me. So I hear that this man is someone that, is going to have great conversation. So I know that he's not going to let me down. We are so excited to have him tonight. Before we do so, let's remind you guys why we are here. Let's play that first video by Joel Correa.
How's it going? This is just a little note for all of my theydies and gentlethems, boys and girls, men and women, all creeds and colors. Happy Pride. You have a purpose no matter what you feel at this current moment. If you feel hopeless, if you feel lost, if you feel that somehow that future isn't looking too bright, I want you to know that, take it from a person who used to contemplate living, that you're worth it. You're worth every second and every ounce of space that you take up. You're a light, regardless of the darkness there is in this world. And even though you may feel like you're out here on a limb on your own, you may feel like things may never get better, they're gonna get better. You're gonna be smart. You're gonna plan the life that you want for yourself, and you're gonna build it. You're gonna manifest it. I love you. Be safe.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Check him out on TikTok. It's Joel C. He is amazing. I love him. He has family, and he always brings us the zest when he is around. So we're truly honored to have opened the month of Pride with him. And we're going to close it out tonight with the very, very memorable, and from what I hear, phenomenal, Louie Ortiz-Fonseca. Let's welcome him tonight. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me here.
So excited to have you on screen.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only time, that's the only way I show up at parties now.
Oh. Well, then tonight we got to make it like a party, right?
Yes, but I'm so happy and humbled to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So tonight's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is let's talk about TRICC. I got that acronym from Louie himself. He's going to explain throughout the night what that means and why that is so important and why he lives by that. So are you ready, mister? Tell us about who you are, Louie. Let us know a little bit about you.
Louie Ortiz-Fonseca, he, him, his pronouns. Was born and raised in North Philadelphia. Been living in Hyattsville for about 2 years now, but in the Washington, D.C. area for 6 years, which is weird because I thought I couldn't last 6 months, but here we are. But I get back to Philly regularly. I did a lot of HIV work and while I was in Philly for about 20 years. And then I started a project called the Gran Varones Project, named after the Willie Colon song, El Gran Varón. And it's a storytelling project that collects and highlights the stories of LGBTQ Latinx folks. It started out just having stories from people I knew in North Philly. And then over the years, it's grown into a national project. And we're about to start a second fellowship where we support 5 varones living with HIV throughout the country to do this kind of work. Because our hope is that other people will use social media to tell their stories, much like you're doing now, and provide an opportunity for folks to know that they're not alone, even if they may be alone in the space, but they can connect with people, digitally, virtually,
Absolutely.
and understand that, we are all surviving or trying to survive and thriving some days and whatever we are going through. So my hope is that, I get to contribute to that in whatever way I can in my lifetime. So yeah. So check us out at Gravadones on all social media platforms.
Awesome. That's great. So you know that what we mostly talk about is domestic violence, but we try our best to talk about everything that surrounds it. When Joelle was on, we spoke about the numbers in the LGBTQIA plus community, and how they go up and down, and people's kind of misconceptions about domestic violence in that community. So it's super important that all of our guests, share with us their opinions on domestic violence, and kind of like if you have either dealt with it or someone close who has dealt with it, and kind of like what is your feedback on it? What do you feel about domestic violence?
I watched my mother and my aunt survive that. I think we mastered like leaving the room really quickly, or how to usher the, children out. As a 44-year-old now, I'm amazed about all the things that I learned, that I had to learn as a young child, right? And I think what we don't always get to hear is the children's perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've highlighted that. But like what it does to us, like for me, it definitely informed how I showed up in relationships, right? Even, I was always out. I had a very loving mother. She has since passed. So I never had to hide who I was, but watching her deal with men who were violent, who attempted to steal her humanity, and watching my aunts go through that, I remember thinking as a kid, that will not happen to me. I would not let a man ever get that close, right?
Yeah.
And, when I was younger, I thought, of course, that was my way of protecting myself, right? Yeah. And I thought that I was ahead of the game with that kind of thinking, right? Until one day, a best friend of mine was like, you know why, your relationships struggle? And I was like, of course I don't. Like, why would I know that? And, he was like, because, you're always telling people that you would be great without them no matter what.
Yeah.
Because that was my thinking. Like, I don't need you. I mean, I love you. I don't need you. It never occurred to me that people in my life also don't want to hear that. Right. Like, yeah. But that was my way of like protecting myself. And, as I mentioned, like seeing my mother, my aunts go through that, it informed how I even showed up in relationships. So I think that if you ask my exes, they will say that I was distant. I've had best friends who say, I'm your best friend, but I feel like you keep me at an arm's length. Yeah. And that was a product of my surviving a home and witnessing domestic violence. And I think every day, now that I'm a father and my son's 18, being a father helps me to unpack that, because I certainly don't want him to inherit that. I want him to enter relationships whole and completely. But yeah, so I've never experienced it personally, but I think that as a child, watching it, and then like how it always was like so normalized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like, my mom don't let me go out to the club because if I go there, he'll pull me out. And I remember thinking like, that's sexy, but I don't want that though. But I still remember thinking, because I'm not trying to be pulled out of the club and dancing to the middle of my favorite song. But like all of those things I had to unlearn. And like, when I talk about domestic violence, especially when, it's through the lens for LGBTQIA plus people, it is so complex.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're taught that it's, that the men are violent and the women accept it. Right. Or quote unquote. Right. Or that the men are the victimizers and women are quote unquote the victims. And when we're talking about same gender relationships, that can, like, how do we then identify, violence if it's just through that lens?
Right.
So I think, I've had friends who did not even know how to name what was going on in their household, in their relationship, because it was just like, oh no, he just loves me too much. He crazy. He's just jealous, right? But I think that like shows like yours, and when you have conversations around like how it shows up in LGBTQIA plus communities. It helps people to like name it.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, when Joel was on, he said that a big thing that he sees when you're speaking about the LGBTQIA plus community, when they see gender on gender, they think for men, it's like, oh, it's just two guys fighting. You know, that's what guys do. They fight. And when it sees two women, it's like, oh, it's just a cat fight. You know, they don't see it as, no, they're in a relationship and there's abuse from one or the other. They don't grasp that. People see it in public and it's like, oh, it's just two dudes fighting. But they don't get, no, it's just like if a woman and a man were together, it's a man and a man. He's hitting on him, it's abuse. People don't see that. And, you know, normalization is huge with domestic violence because all of us were raised in generational, you know, traumas, what we speak about and we've spoken about several times. You know, our mothers went through it, our grandmothers went through it. You know, when I was dealing with it for 6 years, anytime the conversation would arise with my grandmother, it's like, oh, pero cuando yo estaba, you know, con tu abuelo back then, él también me daba. To them, it was like, at that time, this is just things that happen. Son cosas que pasan. But they've, you know, it's now that we're older and we're adults and we're like, legit, that's not cool. Like, just because you think, oh, it's something that he's done, I'm used to it, does not make it right. It never made it right. But it was something that everybody normalized and everybody accepted. So it was like, oh, we all deal with that at some point. Someone told me recently, they were criticizing what I do. And their response was, we all went through that. We all went through some type of domestic violence. Like, why are you talking about it? So what? We all been through it. And I'm like, your attitude right there is why I talk about it so much. Because clearly at 40 something years of age, you still believe that it's okay. You still believe that it's something that's normal and it should not be normal. A child shouldn't have to see it. You know, I have a daughter who's 14, but you know, I went through abuse with her father and I it's not normal for her. And it's not something that I want her to think as she's growing up, oh, that's normal. It's not normal at all. And I think that's the reason why we continue to push this. We've had shows with teenagers and we've had youth editions so that they can also express and kind of identify, because I don't think of growing up, like when we were younger, they didn't talk about it that much. So we didn't identify with what it was. It was just, oh, my dad and my mom scrapping again. You know, we didn't understand what it was till I went through it and I was like, hold on, that's not scrapping.
Yeah, I think that, you know, also, I think people, at least in my life, thought about it as a right or wrong thing, right? And even in that, it's complicated for folks because I think that folks think that they're doing something wrong if they let it happen.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think it's hard to push back. It's hard to push through that when everyone in your life is feeling the shame. Right. And again, like, I didn't know, you know, what was informing how I entered relationships until I really sat down to really think about what is it that I wanted in my life. Like me trying to seek vengeance or trying to make right with the universe that I thought had wronged my mom and my aunts had me chasing ghosts for many years.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like I got tired. I was losing my breath. It was like I can't keep, you know, taking them into my relationships. I can honor them, I can remember them, I can support them, but I can't hold their like trauma and pain as a reminder of what I don't want in a relationship. And I stayed in relationships that weren't for me because everything that I didn't want was what I saw. And I was missing like, oh, I also don't want none of this crap right here too, but because that wasn't on my list, I let you do that for 4 years.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. We have a list of tolerables and intolerables of what we'll deal with instead of just going into each relationship fresh and saying this one was not like the other. If it is, let's just start it off and see how it goes. But we go in there with the past abuse and past, you didn't deal with it firsthand. I dealt with it firsthand. So I've had the issue of going into relationships because I've dealt with it. Like, you ain't doing this to me. You ain't doing that to me. If your hand comes up, I know you're about to hit me. And a lot of times it's not like that at all. And they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, I would never put my hands on you. I would never treat you that way. But in my mind, but you were close to it and you may just do it. So it's like we sabotage these relationships before anything.
Yes.
Because like Charlotte just said, emotional backpack. Absolutely. We carry that baggage with us into every relationship, and we ruin them before we even give them the opportunity to work.
Yes, yes. Yes, I got a PhD.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, we do it all the time. So we're talking tonight about TRICC, right? So before we get to our half mark, I want to start with the first two letters. So what does T stand for you, and why is this topic so important for you?
You know what? Me and my best friend came up. It's part of a larger workshop, and we were doing a lot of work around healthy relationships, right? I think we hear like have a healthy relationship, and no one ever tells us how.
Yeah.
Right. People just tell us when it isn't, but people don't tell us how. And the one example I give is like, as a kid, I always hear like uncles or adults would come and say, "You doing good in school?" And you already know what answer they want, right? Like it's pretty much a yes or no question.
Right.
You get an A's, and I would lie and say, yeah, but I could have gotten A's. I just didn't know how to study. So TRICC is the how to, or a how to create and maintain a healthy relationship. And the T is trust. Right, which when I do this for a larger crowd, there's always this visceral response about trust. And I think what comes up for people are all of the reasons not to trust someone, right?
Yeah, right.
And, so how would you describe like what trust means, or what comes to your mind when you hear the word trust?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Trust. Wow. I have major trust issues. So let's see. When I think of the word trust, it's being, what? For me, I guess, since we're talking about domestic violence, let's talk about it in relationship sense. Trust for me is being able to know that my man is walking out the door and not like having an anxiety attack every time he walks out, because I can't trust him, because I'm fearful that every time he steps out the door, he's going to be with another woman. Trust is allowing my daughter to go somewhere and knowing that she's always going to make the right decisions and not do things behind my back that she knows that she absolutely shouldn't do. So I guess being able to know that I can truly, truly believe what they're saying to me without sitting up with anxiety and worried that they're lying to me.
Yes, and in our past experiences, or experiences that we see other people have, impact how we move through trust, right?
Right.
But I equate trust to faith. And I know that faith has this religious connotation to it, but faith is the ultimate belief in something.
Yeah.
And that is trust, right? Like you trust that I would show up tonight, right? So I think that
I was like this. I hope we got the
email. So I think, humans innately trust people, right? I think, if you hold a baby up to a breast, it will begin to suckle. It would not ask if it's whole milk, chocolate milk, almond milk. Right. So I think that we humans, and it's in our DNA. We trust. We learn that comes with consequences. That comes with all kinds of experiences, right? When you take the chance to trust in someone.
Right.
But so the trust is the faith, but also like trusting your gut. Right. And not thinking about it as right or wrong, but like trusting the process. I think a lot of times when I would go into relationships, I would look for reasons not to trust someone. And because we are addicted to being right, we're going to find a reason not to trust someone.
Right.
You are going to find what you're looking for. Yeah. Right. So I think that's part of the self-sabotage you mentioned. Yeah. So trust is trusting that your decision, like I trust the people and the decisions I make. I trust the people I choose to hang out with, right? And it took me years to get to that, right? And that doesn't say that I'm not burned or I don't feel slighted, right? But I generally trust the people I choose to be in my life.
Yeah.
And because I trust my decisions, I trust whatever happens. Right. So, and then even as a parent, I have that same anxiety. Like, I hope my damn son, last thing I need is to bail him out. Right. Yes. Right. But I want to have that anxiety because the world gives me that anxiety.
Yeah.
And I also trust that I gave him all that he needed to make the best decision of the moment.
Absolutely.
And that's what I try to lean on. Doesn't mean that it always pans out that way, right? But like, I don't want to have anxiety over something that I think is going to happen, only to have anxiety again when it does.
Right, right.
So trust is like trusting your impact on people in your life, trusting myself as a parent, as a partner, and trusting that the people I choose to love me and choose to love will take care of my heart.
Absolutely. Good. That's good stuff. Good stuff. So we have people commenting, and I want to make sure that we see those comments. We just saw them as they flow with our discussion. So hello, Lucy, Charlotte, Desiree, Teresa. I see all of you. Thank you all for being here and being supportive. Desiree says she loves you, Louie, for your skills, for speaking so eloquently.
Yes, my lung.
Teresa Fetzer says, I think we trust who we can trust according to their actions. I guess their actions speak for themselves. Charlotte says, I trust someone to be true to who they've proven to be. Absolutely, because, you know, that goes a long way with, especially with relationships that you're in, especially with men and women with domestic violence. Hello, Esther Alvarez, we see you. I think that trust is huge because at that moment, you're trusting this person not to hurt you like the last person hurt you. You're trusting that the mask that they're putting on, because let's get it right, everybody at the beginning is amazing, right? Everybody's color de rosa, it's wonderful and lovely, and so their masks come off for some relationships. But for those relationships that we've been in that have been toxic, they start off nice and we're trusting them. Hi, Margie. We're trusting them to be who they said that they were at the beginning. And then as the relationship goes on and it continues to progress, we realize, okay, wait, that's not who that person is. So trust is major in any of these relationships, whether they're abusive or not abusive. Trust is super, super major. Teresa says, I'm going to trust you till you show me your ass. We love Teresa. She's always colorful.
Yeah, you know, and again, like we can't control what other people do, but I think that also trusting the moment we feel we have to exit or a relationship or let someone go. What someone does to me, a lot of times not even about me.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So, and it took me years to figure that out, that if somebody that I trusted lied to me or betrayed my trust, I used to think that I did something wrong.
Absolutely.
Either I made them do that or I missed the clue somewhere along the line. And that was chipping at my own trust in me. It's one thing not to trust other people.
Yeah.
But it's another thing when you don't even trust your own decision making.
Yes.
And I think I've gotten stuck in relationships. I've gotten stuck at jobs, right?
Yeah.
Or just predicaments in life because I didn't trust myself to make the next move.
Right.
Because I let other people steal that from me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right. So now I know, I'm like, the relationship was good, this friendship was good, or whatever this situationship was good. And now it's not. It's neither good or bad, right or wrong. It is what it is. But it's time for me to exit.
Yes. Absolutely. Charlotte says, Teresa Fetzer, unless it's The Rock, then he can show me his ass. I love it. Charlotte's nuts. Teresa says, so true. However, it's a hard pill to swallow when it ain't yours. Absolutely. And Ray says, trust causes you to second guess the person all the time. Absolutely. No relationship, whether it's a parent, whether it's a partnership, whether it's work, no matter what the relationship, if there is no trust, you ain't going anywhere. It's 24 minutes in. Let's get to the R. What does the R stand for you, mister?
Respect. And, you know, it took me years to figure that out because I knew what respect wasn't. I've seen enough fights on the block. Like, why are you fighting her? I'm fighting for my respect. But when did she take it? When did she steal it? Should have left it sitting around. Right? But no one could name what respect was, right? Again, we're socialized to know what it ain't, right?
Right, right.
So I try to get people to like, you know, equate it to boundaries.
Exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, like boundaries, letting all the people in your life know what you need, what you expect, and what you require.
Yeah.
And I think a lot TV teaches us that if a person loves us, they know. And I'm here to tell you that people do not know. People are not mind readers, right? And I think, you know, people used to find out when they crossed the boundary with me when I was cursing them out.
Yeah, pretty much, right.
And what I taught them was to be afraid of me and not to honor my boundaries.
Yeah.
So I've gotten better at saying, okay, whatever this situationship is, here are my expectations. What are yours?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, when I accept a job, I'm like, I'm not going to be in before 10. I got a son and I can't be past 6. Right. Before I didn't do that. Yeah. And then I would be mad and resentful that I didn't do that. Because I would be like, well, they know I got a son, but they still got me here. Right. And then but they're also thinking, they're probably thinking on the other side, like, wow, he has a son and he's still here.
He's committed.
That's amazing. Right. So after being resentful, I've learned to express what my boundaries are. And sometimes we don't know them immediately with that person. But when it does happen, if I'm like, okay, they crossed the boundary. Yeah. Maybe someone made a joke that I heard as homophobic, right? Yeah. And I can be the old Louie and be like, oh, I'm gonna have to cut this person off. Let me delete them, right?
I love you.
Or I can be like, I'm hurt, I'm irritated. Let me give it a moment. That's why I'm like, do I trust this person? I do trust this person. I know that they will not hurt me. At least their actions in our relationship to this point the data tells me that they care for me. And this is just a hiccup. So let me have a conversation with them about what my boundary is, right? So I think that, doing that at the beginning of the relationship and as the relationship goes on. And this is for all, even when you're reaching out to someone for support, right? I ask people, hey, Christina, do you have the capacity to support me right now? And that gives the person the time to be like, I do, give me 5 minutes. Right. Or I can't right now, but I swear I will make myself available at 11 p.m.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to what I used to do, I need to talk to you. And then you said, well, I can't because so now you can't talk to me? Oh, wow. You brand new. I was there for you. Right. So it's kind of like those kinds of boundaries help the relationship to grow and they make us feel safer. And that's how I, frame respect.
So I feel like I'm meeting the new reserved and calm Louie, because Desiree said old Louie would cut the person, period. I'm so glad you're expressing this and being vocal on these topics. I feel like Desiree I need to know the old you and the new you, but the old you too, because, sounds like you were a little caliente back then.
Oh, most definitely, because I didn't know, again, I didn't know how healthy, I didn't have ways of cultivating healthy relationships that were safe for me, but also for the people that I loved. I was always on this, I have to protect myself because I saw what the world did to my mom. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of friendships suffered because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it.
And after a while, you're just like, life's too short. I don't want this. I want something. I want to enjoy life while I'm here. And I want my son to see me enjoying life and having healthy relationships so that he continues to move through the world and honor the women that he loves and that he's in a relationship with, and then honor all of the people in their life that invest into their relationship.
Yes, absolutely. That's awesome. I love this. We're going to keep going. So we've gone through the T, we've gone through the R. We're going to watch a video now talking about the numbers of domestic violence in the LGBTQIA+ community. Right? Where's that video?
Continuing this week's conversation on domestic violence. Studies show one group experiences it more than others. That's the LGBTQ community.
I found the numbers to prove it, but also realized the reasons why and how it happens to this community are not researched as much as they are for other groups.
When we see a purple ribbon on someone's chest or in a storefront, we know what it means. It's the universal sign of support for domestic violence victims. There's a lot of support out there for people who struggle with the unthinkable behind closed doors. But there are also people who suffer through this significantly more than others. No, not necessarily women, but the LGBTQ community. A branch of the CDC called the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control collected data on this issue. It created the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, which does something many other domestic violence statistics don't. highlights homosexual, bisexual, and transgender people in its numbers. It found about 44% of lesbian women and about 61% of bisexual women have experienced rape, physical violence, or stalking by a partner. Compare that to only 35% of heterosexual women. The men's disparities aren't as drastic but still exist. 26% of gay men and about 37% of bisexual men have experienced rape, physical violence, or stalking by a partner. Compare that to 29% of heterosexual men. The survey also found transgender domestic abuse victims are more likely to experience violence in public. Breaking it down by types of violence, 20% of LGBTQ victims experience physical abuse, 15% have been verbally harassed, 11% reported violence involving a weapon, and 4% experienced sexual violence. Very few scholars have taken the time to dig into why this happens. Medical scientists at Northwestern University refer to something called the minority stress model. It says being part of a minority group contributes to high stress. The scholars at Northwestern say same-sex couples are dealing with the stress of being a sexual minority. One partner is physically taking their added stress out on another. Experts also use the double closet phenomenon as a contributing factor when discussing the topic with the BBC. They explained how some victims in same-sex relationships are reluctant to report abuse because they don't want to be outed by officials. As these trends become more widely known, assistance for victims is slowly but surely becoming more available. In the past few years, the Federal Violence Against Women Act expanded to assist everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. The CDC says it's focused on preventing all intimate partner violence represented in its research, because the key to creating respectful, nonviolent domestic relationships actually starts outside of the home with friends, family, and communities, respecting just how serious this issue can be.
Awesome information. I think one of the biggest things that was a surprise to me was that, and I don't understand why I was surprised, because after you think about it, I'm like, that does actually make sense, because it says that one of the biggest numbers are from the transgender community, which should be kind of obvious for anyone, that they would suffer so much through domestic violence. Before we get back into the last few, I want to remind folks, since we are at half an hour mark, what we always do, if you know of anyone who is dealing with domestic violence, someone you love, yourself, or someone that you're close to, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233, or you can reach us at all of our social media platforms or at loveshouldnothurt.com. Louie, give me your I. What does I stand for?
Intimacy. And I like to break it down as into me see.
Yeah.
Right? Like, intimacy is more than sharing physical closeness.
Right.
It's like this emotional closeness. Like when
Absolutely.
we talked about expressing your boundaries, that is an intimate act.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're vulnerable. And so intimacy, right? So trust, respect, intimacy. Trust helps you, and trust and respect helps you get to intimacy, right? Because you trust the person. You're honoring your boundaries, so now I feel safe to be intimate with you. And I like to frame it as like having those courageous conversations.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have a master's degree in cursing people out. But again, what the price of that was that people were just afraid of me. And that goes against how I see myself and how I want other people to see myself. Mm-hmm. Right. And one story I always tell is that I had a friend, Roberto, who wanted to have his party at my house. And this is like maybe 12. It's a couple of years ago. And so we're having this party and he had a friend, a woman come from New York for his party. So because she was from out of town, she was there early. Right. And we're still setting up the space and she's on the phone with her boyfriend. And I guess he heard me and Roberto in the background. Mm-hmm. And I already knew where the conversation was going. Because to be a gay boy growing up and hanging out with girls, mm-hmm. the girls always had to explain to their boyfriend that I wasn't a threat. Right.
Yeah.
and there would be a lot of persuasion. Like, so I already knew where the conversation was going. But in my head, I was like, but how is she going to describe? How is she going to describe us, or what word is she going to use to describe us? Mm-hmm. Because I could tell that she kept trying to explain to him that the male voices he heard in the background were not trying to get at her. So I was like, dusting near her, not to look like I was, that I was eavesdropping. And then, finally she said, something to the extent like, don't worry about it, they're patos. And I was like, bingo! And, right? Because I was like, okay, I won't have to let somebody have it, and she's the one. But then I remembered, I'm like, oh, I'm having Roberto's party at my house. This is Roberto's friend. If I curse out right now, it's going to be awkward. I don't want that for Roberto. So I went into the bathroom and I squeezed the sink. I don't know if you've ever been that mad that you squeeze the sink, right?
I know about the sink.
And it came to me. Yes.
I squeeze.
And I had a breakthrough. Like, I could curse her out and then create an awkward situation for Roberto. Mm-hmm. Or I cannot say anything and tell everybody who walks in that night. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what she did. Blah blah blah. And I had this foresight that when me and Roberto went back to work on Monday, people were going to be like, "How was the party?" And Roberto was going to be like, "Oh my God, it was amazing." And my story was going to be like, "Well, let me tell you what happened." And in the bathroom, in the bathroom, I realized that's not how I wanted my future to be. So I pulled her to the side. I said, "Hey, heard you on the phone." And wasn't eavesdropping. I was dusting. I'm sure you saw.
I was dusting.
And, like the word that she said is unacceptable. It cannot be said in my house. And she's like, "My God, I apologize." I was like, "Yeah, I get it. Like, you were trying to make him feel safe in your relationship, but it came at the cost of mine."
Exactly.
And I get it. I got a man too, child. You think I pay rent by myself? So like, I got like, right. So and we were cool after that. And like, it never came up. It only comes up when I'm talking about, it can be hard to have those conversations, right? Especially with someone you don't know, because you are taking a leap of faith. But that is what intimacy is. And that builds, that helps to build trust and, apply boundaries when you're intimate and have those courageous conversations.
Absolutely. Intimacy is something that people, I don't think, realize in depth what it is. Because people can relationships, for example, people can sit and say, "I didn't cheat on you. I never cheated on you." You did cheat on me, because even though you never physically touched that person, the moment that you were on the phone with them, sharing important details about your life, and now you miss this person and I want to talk to them again tomorrow on the phone, and you're having deeper conversation, that's intimate. That right there, you've made an intimate connection with that person. It is cheating, because you now have grown a bond that you would not normally grow outside of your relationship. But now there's this third party that you can't wait to talk to every day. And you can't wait to get on the phone with when you get in your car and you want to sneak the conversation, because those conversations are so good. I can talk to him or her about anything. I can talk to him or her about my deepest fears and because I can't talk to my partner. She doesn't listen. He doesn't listen. So now you're wanting this person more and more. It's cheating still, because you have grown an intimate relationship now with this person. It's not physical, but you guys have shared moments that you're not even sharing with your partner. So intimacy can be so much.
And it can also provide an opportunity to like have that conversation about like what's missing here.
Right.
And like hearing that and not wanting to fix it immediately or be defensive. Right. And I think, I've had to, I think being a parent has helped me to do that. Right. To hear how my son sees me and not be defensive. Yeah. Right. But I think that I have the greatest friendships now because I trust all my best friends because they do tell me about myself. Right. I've learned to to see the gift in that, because I know for every person that tells me about myself, there are 400 other people telling somebody else about me.
Yes. I think
Right. So it
that's
may not
what
be
I
fun to
resent more.
hear.
Yep, but it's helpful. It's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends in my circle that I think bonds have been broken and they're not the same, which, I hope at one point can be, but they're not, because we haven't done that. We haven't told each other about ourselves. We have only just kind of accepted each other for, this is just who she is, type of thing, instead of saying, I don't care how comfortable or uncomfortable you are, this is who you are to me. And I'm guilty of that too. But then I have the people who are constantly in my day-to-day that tell me on jump. Ray will tell me in a minute what he thinks I've did wrong. Michael Mai will tell me in a minute, you're wrong. My little sister will tell me in a minute, no, you're wrong. I have those people that'll say,
Yes.
listen, you don't like it, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, because that's who I am to you. We have people commenting. I don't know if you can see that. So while you were telling the story, Teresa says she didn't deserve to be in all of your company. Uh, she also said, oh, you too nice. Charlotte says, fact that she getting out. Desiree says emotionally cheating is definitely still cheating. Absolutely. It's bigger. Teresa Futzer says, real talk. The act of sex for me ain't as deep as the emotional relationship they establish when they cheat on you. Absolutely. Absolutely. 41 minutes. Let's keep going. What is your first C?
Communication.
Oh my
Right.
God.
And
Yes.
I think we definitely touched on it, right? Like how we say stuff, how we show up in people's life, all communicate something. I think one of the greatest lessons I learned is I got invited to a graduation party, and Roberto's in my life a lot. I'm at the text him.
Your homie.
So Roberto had invited me to Baltimore to go to a party, right? And I was like, okay, buy the bus ticket, and I just won't show up to Tiffany's graduation party. Because I didn't think in it, because how I thought of myself in the world was that no one's going to miss me at this party. So I won't tell her, we just won't speak for a couple of days and then everything will be all right. Right.
You're all right. You're good on our end. We see you.
Yeah, I think that was my son calling me.
I'm
gonna have to trick it with him after this. So when I talk about communication, I think I had another friend who said, if you committed to going to Tiffany's graduation party, and I think it was actually my idea that she had one. I think that was also the other thing, the other layer. And he was like, do you get that her party would not be the same without you? She invited you to be a part of her celebration. Mm-hmm. And you're not being there would communicate something. And I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Right. And I was doing TRICC presentations on TRICC around the same time. So I think what we do, what we don't do, what we say, and what we don't say, they all communicate something. Absolutely. I think that's why it's important that we trust ourselves in our decision making, but also trust the people that we have in our life to tell us when we need to get our act together, right? Absolutely. And respecting boundaries, this is what, I wouldn't want someone to commit to coming to my party and not showing up, because I don't want to miss you at my party. I want you to be there for my celebration. And that conversation was an example of intimacy, right? I wanted to go to Baltimore, and my friend who was telling me this risked me saying, mind your own damn business, right? So it's never easy for the person to tell us about ourselves, right? Especially if you have a strong personality like me, right? And I think communication is remembering and being very intentional about what we say and what we mean, right? And if that's even what we consider cheating, right? Because cheating can be this very obscure thing, this very abstract thing that people only equate to sex. Right. But if we're in a relationship and I'm so this is how I there's emotional adultery, there's this, but we have to have that conversation for me to be able to hold you accountable. Right. If it's a standard or a rule that I haven't communicated to you, then it's hard to hold someone accountable because that may not be their standard or their rule. right? So communication is essential. And again, how we say it, when we say it, yeah, all of that.
Communication is huge. Charlotte says, and learning how to communicate with each other. Absolutely, because if you can't communicate, your relationship is going to be terrible. And I have dealt with that so many times, whether it's with my child or my partner. Communication is essential. And I swear I have this conversation all the time. I should be able to have a conversation with you, with my child, with anyone, and you get the tone that I have, whether it's being combative or not. You can understand where I'm coming from. And if I say, I want to talk to you about something that is just disturbing me or has hurt me or has just made me feel uncomfortable, I should be able to communicate that with you. And we should be able to have that dialogue and not be offensive and not fight about it and not feel like it's a constant attack or she's just being dramatic. It should be, okay, she has something important she wants to tell me. Let me sit down and talk to her. Or even things like communicating about our schedules and what time I'm doing this, or if I'm going away, or things like that. There's so many people who just do whatever they want in relationships. And it's like, bro, I'm not asking you to sit and tell me, when you peeing. I'm just saying, if you feeling like you, for real, if you feeling like you're not gonna come home, tell me that. For my daughter, she'll just say, oh, mom, I'm doing this and this and that tomorrow. And I'm like, well, who owns the car? Me, right? So don't you think you should have communicated that with me so that I can tell you if I'm available or not? Because clearly you can't go unless I take you. But communication is not something that we, openly have, and we have to work to achieve that. Teresa says, unfortunately, we all don't arrive at the same time. Absolutely. So tell us what your well, go ahead. Say your final thought about that.
And again, we can only communicate our needs and hope that people recognize them. I've learned, if you've ever stopped speaking to someone and they don't know why you stopped speaking to them because you think they should know why you stopped speaking to them, because if you had to explain why you stopped speaking to them, there's going to be a fight. That is not communication.
Absolutely.
Right, because I've run into old friends who were like, "Oh my God, I thought she was just busy," and I spent the last 4 months in my head fighting with them. And I'm like, so we were like living in two different universes. You were thinking that I was out living my life, and I was here fighting you in my head for 4 months, and I can't get those 4 months back, right? And I'm on my deathbed, God forbid, I do not want to look back and go, I can't believe I wasted those 4 months not communicating.
Yeah, I think I have relationships now, friendships that I've had for over 30 years that have suffered because of lack of communication on both of our parts, not just them, on my part as well. Being angry about who knows what, not even understanding the other person and how you've hurt them not understanding me, and then we just don't say anything. So now months have passed, and like you said, you spend months battling it in your head. I do that all the time. I battle in my head trying to figure out, okay, what were the wrong steps that I took? What did I do that was wrong? But we never speak. So we never come to an understanding. We never express why. And that's just where it's at. So communication is huge. Desiree said, no one would miss you at a party. You are the party lung. Communication is huge, as is setting boundaries. That's something I learned. Dialogue is needed. My lung. Oh, you are her lung. Woo!
Yes, my left lung is Desiree.
Awesome. So what is your last C?
Cooperation, because all of these things work in tandem. So it's not like you can be like, let me work on intimacy and I'll get to the other ones when I feel like it. Like they all build on each other and they all work in sync, right? You cannot have, trust without respect of boundaries, and you cannot have respect of boundaries without intimacy, and you can't have intimacy without communication. And cooperation is also like you doing that to yourself. There are times where I have to have an honest conversation with myself where I'm like, I don't want to go to this appointment because I'm tired. And it's like, no, child, you don't want to go to this appointment because you don't like going to the doctor, right? So even I have to put myself in check. And I find that the more I do that with myself, I'm able to enter conflict or find a way to, resolve conflict, and to see myself and like the role I play in my life without quantifying it as me being dumb, stupid, or someone who's always messing something up. Right? I can say, Louie, I know you are afraid that people will hurt you, so you run immediately when you feel like something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you cannot make decisions based on fairy tales. Right? So it's kind of like, when am I listening to my gut or when I'm listening to my fear? Right? So I trick myself. And, you know, and again, these things work in tandem. How does it work? If you ever feel like you're going to go off on your daughter, your son, your partner, what's worked for me is to step away, to get on the phone with the friend, talk my crap. Like, can you believe, because that's also helpful too. So can you believe this? Because I'm ready to like stab somebody. But because
no
I've trained
violence.
Yes, that will go against this conversation.
That's right.
But then, you know, once I'm having that angry conversation with my friend, I'm able to come down and be like, okay, now I got that out the way. So let's figure out what happened.
That's right.
Right. And that is how TRICC can be used. It gives yourself some distance so that you do not incite violence, that you know what I mean? So that you don't show up violently, physically, verbally, or emotionally, so that we're not completely reacting only for us to apologize, right? So TRICC is about, let me trick the situation. And it may take a couple of times to do that. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to be feel betrayed, but you don't have to respond immediately. That's what I had to learn. And TRICC helps me to do that.
Yes. Charlotte said, I need to trick more. Anybody that knows Charlotte knows that's the truth. Because my girl's vicious. She will cut you.
Tricking ain't easy, but it's definitely not impossible.
Absolutely. I love that. I have had so much fun with you. You are amazing. You have to come back. Someone we both know says that on October 23rd, 2021, someone on the other side of this screen, and there's only just you and me, should be the host to my Love Gala. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just speaking it into the universe. It might happen. I don't know.
Well, Ray knows. I think I've hosted a couple of Muerte events.
I heard. We need some energy. Listen, COVID. Yes, COVID knocked out our Love Gala last year. You know, we started at the beginning of the year last year, right before COVID. We were able to have our first Love Gala, and it was such a phenomenal success. People were standing. We sold tickets, and then there were people who wanted to come. We're like, we have no seats. They were like, I'll stand. So they stood. And then we were supposed to have it again this year in February at the beginning of the year, but because of COVID restrictions, we didn't have it. So anybody that's watching, October 23rd, 2021 is our next Love Gala. And he's clapping, and he said that Ray, he was his before. So I don't know if you people are agreeing with me, but I feel like he said yes by just saying all that. So look, Charlotte says she'll come to Philly. So
good deal.
There you go. October 23rd. We got to host people, the Love Gala in Philly, part 2. This has been so much fun. I swear that I am going to take your acronym and put it in my phone, and I need to live by it, because let me tell you, you taught some lessons tonight, because absolutely every single word in that acronym is super important for any relationship. It doesn't matter if you are straight, if you are part of the LGBTQIA plus community, no matter what relationship you're in, TRICC is definitely something that all of us need to practice, because I have no patience. So I think that I need to practice all those things in that acronym. That is amazing. Louis, you were such a phenomenal guest. I loved having you.
Thank you. This was a great time. Thank you.
It was, and this was the best way to close out the month of Pride, because we stand together with everyone out there who recognizes themselves or identifies themselves in the LGBTQIA plus community. We love you, and we will continue to support you. I'm so excited we closed the month with you. I'm going to do as I always do at this time. I'm going to go to the back, so you're not going to see me no more, and I'm going to give you a moment to reflect on the show and kind of your thoughts. Share your social media so people can follow you and let them know how you felt about tonight. So I'll be back, Louis.
Awesome. Follow us on Gravarones on all social media platforms. So I'm so glad to have been here, and keep watching.
Short and sweet. We like it. We like it. Short and sweet. I think they already learned who you are and learned a whole lot about you throughout the show. But thank you so much for being here. Ray's going to send you to the back, and I'm going to give my final thoughts, and we're going to bring you back to say goodbye. Today has been super duper fun. I am so excited that we were able to have Louie on. Thank you for everyone who has been in the chat. Why did I just lose my train of thought? Teresa, Charlotte, Desiree, everyone that has been here. Thank you for being here tonight, for being here every week and being so supportive to us. We love you guys. We have closed out the month of Pride. We stand with everyone who is in the LGBTQIA+ community. You always have love from Love Shouldn't Hurt. We hope that you had an amazing, amazing Pride Month. We hope that you were able to celebrate con orgullo who you are and show the world that you not only represent yourselves, but you represent a community of amazing people. Pride is not just for 1 month. It is who you live every day. So be proud, be loud, and do your thing. I love all of you. Today's show was amazing. I love Louie for meeting him for the first time. He is awesome. Like I said, I think I just snagged him for our Love Gala, October 23rd. So be there. We're going to do pre-sale of tickets soon. Next week, we are going to be live from Disney World. Woohoo! Cannot wait. I will be joined with two of my favorite ladies, Evelyn Ramos and Amanda Peguero. We will be in Disney World with our children, but we are bringing you Abusive Relationships Part 2. Abusive Friendships Part 2. Our first one was such a phenomenal night, and Facebook was a hater. It threw us off because of our music at the beginning. So this time, no music. We're just going to be with Mickey Mouse in Disney World, talking to all of you, having girl talk, all three of us in front of the camera from Disney. So be here next week. And you already heard me say October 23rd, mark it in your calendar books, formal gala. We were semi-formal last year. We will be 100% formal this year. So get ready to wear your gowns. October 23rd. Look for information soon. We will be coming to you with the Love Gala Part 2. Bring Louie back so we can say goodnight to our folks here. Louie, it was fun. Did you have fun?
I had an amazing time. Yes.
Oh,
this was.
Goodness. You have to come back. You know, after you host our gala. I got to close the night out with a bang. So I'm going to say goodbye. Louie will say goodbye. And we're going to leave you with some music from Joel Correa. Have a good night, everybody. See you next week.
1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4, counting the steps that I take to the door. Don't know what I'm doing, don't know what I did before. I just got a taste and I just need more. Yeah, I just need more. Focus on the forehead and one on the cheek. Driving past the spot where we used to meet. Memories created up and down the street. No. I see your face when I close my eyes. Baby, it should come as no surprise that I left a part of me that